Welcome to María Alejandra OFF-TOPIC, the podcast about the non-musical things around music. I am María Alejandra Jiménez, violinist, musician, and writer. Off-Topic is more than just a podcast, it's a platform featuring articles, essays, and a free newsletter that explores this universe. Subscribe so you don't miss any content and visit the website mariaalejandrajimenez.com. That's Jimenez with a J and a Z. Subscribe also on your favorite audio platform so you don't miss any episode. Our guest today is Amanda Kohn, is a Brazilian pianist who earned her Bachelor of Arts in Piano Performance at the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro. Through her career, she has performed on stages across Brazil and abroad, delivering both solo and chamber music recitals that celebrate Brazilian popular music and classical repertoire. After completing her master's degree in piano performance at the University of Montreal, Amanda is now pursuing a doctorate in collaborative piano and chamber music in Canada, focusing her research on practice strategies away from the instrument with Francis Perron. Yet, she's still actively engaged in several projects in Brazil, including a duo with Brazilian cellist Luis Almeida, the duo Acalanto, who recently signed with the Brazilian label Século 30 Records and released their first single. Committed to making academic research accessible to a broader audience, Amanda launched the Musitalk project on social media, where she shares her research findings and practical insights to improve the instrumental practice of music students worldwide. Now, on a more personal note, how do I know Amanda? I got to know her through Instagram. I really love her approach to practicing, which is very similar to the approach that helped me to get my motivation back in a moment in which I almost stopped playing the violin. I also appreciate a lot her authenticity and her openness in sharing her journey, which is something that is very necessary in the classical music industry. And today she's here to talk about her project, Musitalk, and how she helps musicians become the passionate and confident artists they want to be on stage. So, welcome, Amanda. How are you?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm great. How about you?
I'm doing well. A bit tired right now, but I'm doing well. So, yeah, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, or shall we go straight to the questions?
I don't know. You guide me. Whatever you prefer. I will answer all of your questions.
Okay. So actually, the first thing that I ask to all the guests is, do you have a recommendation to share? It could be a movie, a TV series, a book, a place to visit. It can be literally anything that you have been enjoying lately.
Well, lately I've been reading the Lord of the Rings saga. I've always wanted to read the books because I've been watching the movies since I was a little kid. My dad would always show it to me. And it's been on my reading list for too many years. And my recommendation, if you struggle to read books, is to create a little ritual. It's been working like magic for me. It's like I like to read before bed, so I put on some like fairy lights, Lord of the Rings playlist, make myself like a warm tea that I love, and it's just my little moment, you know. I think it really makes the reading process a lot more intimate and interesting. So that's something I've been really enjoying lately.
That's so nice. Actually, I've seen you reading it on Instagram. You're sharing it on your stories, and it looks really cozy and really nice.
Yeah,
so
it's really my little ritual.
Yeah, me, I also love reading before going to sleep, like making a nice warm tea and putting the lights not so intense. And reading is like my favorite moment, one of my favorite moments of the day, probably.
Yeah, I feel I have a lot of friends who keep telling me they want to start reading, but they never click with the book. And I honestly think that you need to romanticize it a little to start enjoying it, like creating a moment to relax, So it really helps a lot.
Yeah, and I think it also helps finding something that you like or enjoy to read, which is not easy.
Mm-hmm.
I read
Yeah,
almost
yeah,
anything because I'm obsessed with books. But it's true
yeah.
that that's not like this for everybody. So I think finding the book that you really click with it is not so easy. So
It absolutely, yeah. It really helps when you like the story.
yeah. And what is your first memory associated with music?
With music, wow, that's a deep question. All of a sudden, let me think. My first memory associated with music, I never had like musicians in my family. I think I'm the very first musician
Mm-hmm.
in my family. But my dad especially, he would always make me go to concerts, attend concerts, and listen to a lot of music, and like all sorts of genres, not just classical music. Like he's a big fan of classical music, but I was born in Brazil, so I'm Brazilian, and he would make
Yeah.
me listen to a lot of our greatest Brazilian artists, like Brazilian popular music, traditional music, and world music too, pop music. And I'm just really, even though I wasn't playing piano at that time, I started playing when I started taking lessons when I was 11, but I've been always been listening to music. Like I don't think I can remember a time in my life where music wasn't around me. Even though I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't learning an instrument, I was always listening to music.
That's so nice. I have had several South American guests in the podcast. I'm Venezuelan, and I feel like all our memories related to music has to do a lot with home and family. Like I think we live
Yeah,
in very
that's true.
musical countries. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's
it's something
absolutely
that
true.
somehow we
Absolutely
have in
true. It's so
common. Yeah,
rich. Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, it always come up a bit this thing that music is the way a bit that is the thing that actually helps us to measure time, because I think the music that we listen marks different moments during the year. I don't know if is the case for you as well.
You mean like depending on the holidays, you listen to different.
Depending on the holidays, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Um, I feel like I noticed that a lot more since I moved to Canada. I've moved to Canada
Yeah.
4 years ago to do my master and now my doctorate, and
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that that's a lot like that is very true here in North America, because they really take all the
Ah,
holidays
okay.
very seriously, like Halloween, and you see all the little kids going trick or treating, and everyone's getting ready for like their Christmas carols. And I feel like in Brazil, it didn't really change that much. We would listen to a lot of Brazilian music all year long, but I clearly
Yeah,
noticed a difference since I moved to North America for sure.
that's interesting. Yeah, and today I wanted to talk a bit with you about your project about Music Talk. That I find very interesting, because with during my life as a musician, as a violinist, I think as all musicians do at some point, even if we don't really talk about it openly, at some point we all struggle a bit with practicing and with preparing, and I really appreciate your approach to practicing and mental preparation. And this is why also I wanted to have you in the podcast. And I wanted
Thank
to
you so
ask,
much.
how did you start this podcast? Sorry, how did you start this project and how did it start?
Well, actually, when I started Music Talk, I had no intention to create like a page, a content creation page or anything. I started this page at the same time that I started my doctorate in collaborative piano. And I was just reading a lot of stuff about mental practice and practice efficiency in general well, because it's a topic that really interests me, first of all, and also because the life of a collaborative pianist is so insane and so chaotic that you just need to learn how to learn quicker and more efficiently, because you're constantly working with people all the time. You get scores maybe like hours before a rehearsal, and you just need to be ready and coach singers and like know everyone else's parts. So it's a lot of work, and I was just learning so many things in my doctorate. And I decided to just create that page as a personal diary. That's how it all started. I just wanted to have a space where I could write all of that down and just organize my ideas and just keep as a record for myself, because it was really so interesting. So it was never meant as a way to share this with people. It was really just a personal diary.
Yeah.
But then apparently a lot of people really enjoy that because it's a really fascinating topic. And when I saw all of that reaction, that positive reaction from a lot of people around the world, and people, with really amazing feedback, saying how this helps them practice better, then I started taking that seriously and I started actually creating content. And in the end, that turned out to be my doctorate research theme. I just defended my doctoral thesis about mental practice for collaborative pianists, and it was really, and a big part of it was that Musitalk page, because I feel like it gave me the motivation to dive deep into that subject and keep talking about it. So now it's my baby. Musitalk is my baby. And I keep posting all my, my life as a collaborative pianist and my research. And I just want to keep posting and connecting with you people, because I was really lucky to build such a beautiful community there. And, as a researcher, I really believe in making research available, because I know that it can help a lot of musicians. I know it can help a lot of students. And I feel like it should be an effort of all researchers to find a way to communicate that in a more accessible way. Because it ends up just staying in that academic bubble. I remember when I started reading a lot of articles for my research, I was just fascinated with how many research has been made in the last 4 years about mental practice, and also very shocked with the fact that I never heard about that before. And none of my colleagues know that that exists. And how come? If they've tested that and they see positive results, how is it possible that no one applies that? And not a single teacher told me about this before. So I really think it should be part of the researchers' work to find the right way to communicate that. And I see social media as a great way to transmit that and to share that with people, and to reach more people that wouldn't necessarily stop to read a scientific article, but that could also benefit from that knowledge.
Yeah, thank you so much, and congrats on defending your thesis. How did it go?
Yeah, thank you. I feel so relieved.
Oh, yes, I can imagine. um, yeah, I think what you do is really important, because I feel like we don't talk. It's funny because musicians, we spend a lot of time making music, but we don't talk enough about how do we actually practice. It's like, okay, you go practice, you have to have this ready for next week, and you just kind of do. And we don't really spend time with each other talking enough about how we practice, how do we approach a piece. And I always feel like in our industry, there is a lot of gatekeeping, and I find it really wonderful when people open up and they share their experiences, because I feel that make us feel less alone. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I totally agree. And especially with the gatekeeping part, that's something
Yeah.
that I've always noticed in Brazil and North America too. Like, it doesn't it's really a classical music thing, you know. But I
Yeah.
also see that as a way to make the whole classical music industry less toxic too. Just, you know, talking openly about, you know, this is something that I do often in my social media. It's I don't just share my research. I share my daily life and struggles. And I feel like
Yeah.
classical musicians starting to get really vulnerable and open about the things they're currently struggling with is ultimately what's going to make us, you know, build this bond and just connect. And it's just so important to recognize those, you know, struggles because they're shared with all of us. So if we can work together to overcome that together as a community, then I feel that this is a posture that all big important and like influencers and classical musicians should really adopt.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, also, for example, I'm also a writer besides being a violinist. And very often I write a lot about my life, and I get quite vulnerable when I write. And it always feels a bit scary because I'm like, who is going to care about this? And it always surprises me that people always write back to me like, thank you so much for writing about this. I never met a person that thought that way, that were thinking things this way, or I thought I was alone on this. And I'm constantly reminded that being vulnerable is such a powerful thing, especially in today's world.
That's amazing. I didn't know you write. I mean, I get your newsletter and I read it from time to time,
Yeah.
but that's amazing. I mean, this is what I'm talking about, you know. I feel like building a
Mm,
healthy, sustainable practice is also help building like a healthy and sustainable community within classical music. And, you know,
yeah.
just being vulnerable is a big part of this. I remember there was a book that I read a while ago, but it really changed a lot of things for me in life, but also in performance and music practice. This author became really famous after she gave like a TED talk. Her name is Brené Brown, and the name of the
Yeah.
book is Daring Greatly. I don't know if you've read that. But basically, this
Not
researcher
yet.
has a research about vulnerability and how vulnerability can make people actually stronger and happier. It's such an interesting research, and this is the kind of researcher that I love because she has a pretty serious research and she really endeavors to communicate that in ways that a lot of people can have access to. So, like going on a TED talk and talking about her research and writing a book in a way that
Yeah.
is not at all like, it does not sound academic at all. It's really accessible and it's one of the most beautiful books I've ever read. And she talks about that a lot. And I feel like this is something I always try to bring in my career, in my practice, and in life in general.
Yeah, thank you so much. I This is on my list. I'm familiar with her work, but I still didn't have the chance to read that book. So, yeah, I hope I can read it soon.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And
I highly recommend
yeah,
it.
when I read it, I will let you know.
Yeah, please let me know. Let
And
me know what you think.
yes, I will let you know. What do you think is the biggest challenge that pianists and most musicians still face in their practice or preparation?
Wow, there's so many mistakes, and
Hmm.
mistakes. I mean, sorry. There are so many challenges.
Yeah.
And I feel like that in itself is one of the biggest challenges. Is that I feel like a lot of musicians, and myself included, especially when I was starting to learn my instrument, we feel so overwhelmed. I mean, it's so difficult to learn an instrument, especially at a higher level. It's so difficult. There are
Yeah.
so many parameters, so many challenges, so many different things you need to think at the same time. And just the whole the whole process of practice is very overwhelming, because you have to focus on the rhythm and reading and the notes, and with piano coordination, and with strings intonation and posture and pedal if you're a pianist. And I know every instrument has its, peculiarities. And I would say just learning how to prioritize is one of the most difficult things one learns during the practice process. And by that I mean just not giving up on yourself and your ability to learn something and to acquire skills, and just learning to take one thing at a time. I would say this is the most difficult tool to acquire when you are becoming a professional in your practice, and also in a bigger scope. Just being kinder to yourself and learning to do one thing at a time. I feel like also talking about that toxic community in classical music, there are so many unrealistic expectations on ourselves that people put on ourselves and that we have towards ourselves and our own progress and how fast we think we should be making progress. And just taking a step down and just knowing how to prioritize, because the challenges are so different, they're so varied. You cannot do everything at once. So that could go from like a very vague scope, like, taking time for yourself and knowing when it's time to rest. And yes, you couldn't practice as much as you wanted today, but just prioritize yourself and your rest, and prioritizing your repertoire based on your deadlines. Prioritize the hardest spots of a piece, or focusing on one thing at a time instead of trying to do everything at once. Like just focusing on the rhythm, just focusing on playing it at a steady pace slowly. So it really goes from macro to micro, It's very difficult to prioritize and to be, just more patient with yourself. This is one of the biggest mistakes that I see my students doing when they practice. And I also used to do that a lot. And sometimes I still catch myself being really impatient and jumping and skipping steps. But in the end, I always tell my students this, like, sometimes I like to sit down with them and practice together. And they really hate me for this when I do that, because I force them to go really slowly, and I'm constantly asking them questions like, so why did you stop? Like, what was the mistake? Can you say it to me? Okay, so now that you've identified the mistake, you're going to repeat that 3 times. And like in the end, I always tell them, I know it feels super slow and it feels like you're wasting time, but we just spent 15 minutes working on that tricky spot, and now you're able to play it flawlessly. Like you've just fixed the problem. And in the end, you learn much faster by taking a step back than if you just tried to power through and keep repeating it, just get things done. But then on the next day, the same problems are going to appear again. So it wasn't really fixed at all.
That is so powerful, because I totally agree that probably one of the most difficult things about practicing an instrument is learning what to prioritize, because when we are playing our instrument, we are doing so many things at the same time. There are a lot of things that are happening at the same time in different levels, like the way we put, like the position of our hands and our bodies, in our case also for string instruments, intonation, rhythm, phrasing. There are so many things, and I think that actually prioritizing is the key to practice in a more efficient way. And as you said also, because I really believe that what we learn with our instruments, we can apply it also to life. And this also applies to life in general, because very often, especially, I don't know if you are a freelance as well, or if you work in a music school. But in my case, for example, I'm a freelance, and it's very difficult to know exactly what to prioritize, because sometimes I find myself like updating my website, and spending some time in it when maybe that's not a priority, for example. And I think that learning to prioritize is really like the key to efficient practice. And as you say, sometimes you feel like you are going slower, but actually on the long run, you are not, because it happens also to me that sometimes when I really practice in a like really being aware of what I'm doing, very often I can have like, I don't know, half an hour practice session in which I'm focusing not even on one passage, I'm focusing on articulation, and that's my focus. And I'm not going to put my energy into anything else because I know that the issue in that passage is that one. And then the next day I add maybe the sound and I add intonation, and little by little I build, and I realize that I can learn so much more faster than like this, practicing less hours and less time. And it's something that it took me a long, long time to learn. Yeah.
Absolutely. And sometimes it's not even just articulation that's not working. Sometimes it's articulation and rhythm and pace and posture. And to me, a great click happened when I realized, well, even though there are many different issues here, I am actually allowed to focus on one at a time. Like this, I know it sounds really silly, but it's not something that a teacher had told me before. I never thought I could, so I can just completely ignore my rhythm and just focus on my phrasing first and then do the opposite, No one told me that. And it's just really, you can take your time, you can do one thing at a time. And that was really a life-changing moment for me.
Yeah, very cool. And you know that I do exactly the same with my students. Sometimes I tell them, okay, but how would you actually practice this? And I actually teach them how to practice, and I do exactly the same. Also,
that
they
is
don't
so
love
important.
It,
I wish all the teachers would do that, because honestly, learning to practice is, to me, the main reason why we go to school. Is like to learn the tools, right? Because you don't want to have a teacher for the rest of your life. Or rather, you won't have a teacher for the rest of your life. At some point, you're going to graduate. And even though, we want to have a mentor for the rest of our lives, you probably won't be in an academic setting for the rest of your life. And that's what you need to learn to become autonomous, especially if you want to learn work as a freelancer like we do. You need to learn the tools so you're able to do it by yourself. That's the whole point. But unfortunately, I still see so many teachers in academia, in conservatories, and university not giving those tools to the students. And that really makes me very frustrated. And it's also one of the reasons why I started this whole project, because, well, if you're not teaching us, giving us the tools, then what's the whole point,
Yeah, completely. And and this thing of prioritizing is, it's so hard, I actually learned it a bit the hard way because during my studies, I was also working part-time. So I was quite busy. And being busy forced me to prioritize, because that meant that maybe my performance in theoric lessons when I didn't have an exam going on was not 100%, which was very difficult for me because I can be quite a perfectionist. But it was not 100% because I needed to prioritize sleeping and practicing violin. And sometimes maybe my violin practice was not 100% because I had to do my thesis. And, this really taught me how to prioritize and how to also adapt to different times in life, because I feel like, as you say, there are such unrealistic standards in classical music, because I feel like we are being forced to perform always at 100% at everything. And I think this is not really possible in life if we want to really take care of our health and our bodies.
I feel like a big part of learning this, acquiring this tool of learning to prioritize, is just coming to terms with the fact that you're not perfect. and
Yeah.
you won't be able to do everything. You might not be able to play perfectly and to, reach a level that you wanted for a specific deadline. And just accepting that,
Yeah.
because you're just a human being and you can't do everything perfectly. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel it's like a big weapon against perfectionism, because in order to learn how to practice and prioritize things, you need to let go of that perfectionism and just accept that it might
Yeah.
not be perfect, and that's okay. I'm still doing it. I'm doing it the way I can.
Yeah, it's funny because this is also something that I learned a bit also through therapy. I really believe, I mean, in my case, because of my history, for me, therapy was really crucial in learning how to practice better. Even though I didn't do therapy for that, but eventually it helped me.
Mhm.
But one of the strongest moments I had in one of my sessions was actually accepting that I am not perfect. That sounds very obvious, but I had always these super
Mm,
high standards for myself. And so I was like,
yeah,
okay, so
it's
what? I
all
make
of
mistakes.
us.
So what?
All of us, absolutely, all of
Mhm.
us.
Cool. And how do you balance, talking about prioritizing, how do you balance your time between like your practice, performing, your doctoral research, creating content? How does it look like for you?
Actually, uh I was talking to my therapist about this this week. And pretty much the same thing that I mentioned. It's I've challenged myself to do a lot of things, a lot more
Yeah.
things than other people would do. Just the collaborative piano career is insane. Just that career by itself is something huge. And I'm also doing a
Yeah.
thesis, music talk, and other so many projects that I'm working on and I'm being invited to perform, which I'm so grateful for. But at some point, you need to learn to say no to things. And at the
Yeah.
beginning of the year, a lot of things happened in my personal life. Like I had a big change in my personal life, and I was just trying to juggle everything with the same level of excellence that I expect in everything I do. And I had like severe burnout at that time, and I
Oh,
had to step back from social media and just even social life. I just needed to be alone, and I think I just learned a big lesson from that time. It was a very difficult time, but it really taught me that it's you won't stop posting and doing your things. You just need a break. This does not mean that it's the end of your career or the end of your life. It's just that you need a
mm-hmm.
pause. So nowadays, the way I manage all of this is that I take a break when I need a break. Like right now, for instance, I
Ah,
was really focused on my thesis defense, and I just stopped posting. I said, listen, I can't do that because my biggest priority is my mental health. And I know that if I keep powering through and trying to be
yeah.
productive and, creating content, I will burn out again. And my priority in my life right now is my health and my doctorate.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to step back and focus on that. And I in that period I lost a lot of followers because of this. And
Yeah.
I feel that it's really difficult to create like meaningful content on social media, even though I love social media, because as I said, I think it's a great way to make research accessible and to connect with people, and with people you would never be able to connect otherwise. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I think it's a real challenge to create uh, authentic and meaningful content through social media, because the whole idea of social media is so toxic. If you think
Yes.
about it, the performance of a post that you post, is not based on the quality of what you're saying or talking about. It's based on how many
Yeah.
likes you get. So depending on how people react to that thing you just shared, then you can determine if it was meaningful or not, which is totally insane. And this is how many people approach performance too. I keep making a lot of correlations between creating content and living as a performer. A lot of people, a lot of
Yeah.
musicians still approach performance like that. Like they base their own self-worth as artists and as musicians, depending on whether they perform well or not, or whether someone said something bad about their performance or not, which is insane. Like, there's no way you can become an artist and explore, meaning in what you have to share if that's where you're basing, like, the quality of what you're doing. So, right now, my philosophy is just know what's important in your life right now and accept that you won't be able
Yes.
to juggle all the things at the same time because you're not perfect. And that's okay.
Yeah, thank you so much for talking about this. And yeah, I mean, for me, social media is a big topic because I think, as you say, it's a great tool. Especially for me, it's a great tool to connect with people that you wouldn't connect with otherwise, which is wonderful. But at the same time, the way it works, it's so overwhelming in a way because it's really not about
Absolutely.
the quality, and there is this pressure to be constantly there, and if you are not there, then your content is not shown to people. You start, as you say, losing followers, and sometimes you cannot be there. Like, I did a huge break from social media last year because I was really like burnout because I was really, I don't know, I felt like, okay, what am I doing? This doesn't make any sense. And now I came back and I'm trying to take a healthier approach to it, which is really, really difficult. And I really find it amazing that you are prioritizing your health right now. And thank you for sharing that. And I think it's important to talk a bit about that and also to create a bit channels that are a bit outside of social media. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Absolutely. To be
Yeah.
honest, it's not something that I've explored so much.
Mm-hmm.
But I see how this would take the a lot of the pressure out, of like just posting on social
Yeah.
media with that crazy algorithm and all its requirements.
Yes, yes. And what else would you say to the musicians and artists that are listening to us right now?
What I would say, I know, I could say so many things. You mean like
Or
what advice I could give?
yeah, what advice, or is there something else you feel like sharing? Yeah.
Something I feel like sharing. Um, I think one thing, one hard earned lesson I would like to share maybe is that, especially if you're following like a program at university, like master's or
Yeah.
bachelor's or doctorate, I feel that the purpose of practicing your instrument is not to get good at ignoring your body, but
Mm-hmm.
learning to work with it. And you can understand that in all the ways, in all different ways, like both really technically speaking, like if you're talking about technique and posture at your instrument, but also in a more abstract way. I'm talking about like
Mm-hmm.
balance, finding balance in your practice and your everyday life. And in the end, it's always going to be worth it to find ways to prioritize yourself and to work with your body. And you're going to make a lot more progress by doing that
Yeah.
than trying
I
to
totally
fight with it.
agree.
Yeah.
100%. And yeah, coming back also to what you say before, also accepting that we go through seasons. And I feel like living a season alive makes things easier overall. Like accepting that,
Mm-hmm.
we cannot do everything always at the same time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. I also
It's
had
really,
in
I
the
mean, it's
podcast. Yeah,
really,
tell me.
no, it's just that it's really difficult to give advice to all musicians
Yeah.
because I feel like it changes so much between instruments. I feel like we don't realize that because we're just talking to our
Mm-hmm.
friends who play the same instruments as we do. But because I'm so grateful to be able to work with so many different musicians in collaborative piano, it's just fascinating to me to notice how different a life can be, whether you play the piano or the organ, or you play like the French horn, or you play the oboe. Like, your life is going to be so different from mine. So it's really difficult to
It's
give
true.
advice that works with everyone, because a career as a collaborative pianist might be completely different than a career if you play like percussion or euphonium. I don't know. So
Yeah.
it's a difficult question. It's a
I
hard
totally agree.
question to answer. And I think it's just important to recognize that. And I mean, if that advice makes sense to you, take from it what you need and what feels relevant to you. But it's just
Mm-hmm.
really important to recognize that we have very different lives, depending on what instrument we play, and that that plays a big part in how you're going to take advices and
Totally.
apply them to your life.
Totally agree. Thank you so much. And yeah, let's take care of ourselves. Yeah, I was just going to say that I had also in the first season of the podcast a Brazilian flutist, and we did a full episode talking about body in music, and I think that's very interesting and a
That's
bit related to
amazing.
this
Wow.
episode. So if you want to go a bit for the people that is listening, if they want to go a bit deeper on that, they should listen
Absolutely,
to the
yeah.
episode with Leticia Maya. So yeah. And before we wrap up, I always do a couple of dynamics with the guests so we get to know them a little bit better, and that brings a bit the off topic side of the podcast. And for
Yeah.
this season, I have a series of questions based in the Proust questionnaire. And yeah, it's like 24 questions, but of course, we're not going to reply to all of them. I will ask you to pick a number between 1 to 24, and we reply a couple of those.
Okay, can I pick the number?
Yes.
8.
8. If you could live another life just out of curiosity, which one would you choose?
Astrophysicist.
Wow. You know that there was another person in this season that said exactly the same. Incredible.
It was my
Maybe it's related
childhood
to music
passion.
somehow. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do another one. Pick another number.
24. So 24.
24, yes. Do you have a motto?
If I have a motto,
Yeah.
wow. Well, I have a mantra. I have a mantra that I
Okay.
always repeat to myself before I step on stage. And
Yeah.
it's just 3 sentences. It's I allow myself to make mistakes, I let go of the fear of failure, and I open myself to enjoying the moment. I always repeat that many times before I step on stage. I just feel like
Wow.
it puts me in the right mindset to perform with joy and communicate something to the audience.
That is so beautiful. Thank you so much. And let's do
Of course.
a last one from 1 to 24.
Okay, number 18.
18. What is a habit of others that gets on your nerves for no logical reason?
For no logical reason. Well, I can't. I don't know if that is a habit. I don't know if that's a habit. I don't think I would qualify that as a habit, but I
Yeah.
really hate slow walkers.
Yeah, me too.
Like when you're walking in the street and people are walking really slowly in front of you, especially when like they're in a group and they block the whole sidewalk, and then that just pisses me off so much. Yeah, I hate that.
Yeah, me too, me too. Okay, and the last question in this season is imagine a situation of disconnection, like you go to a house in the middle of nature. What are the three things that you will take with you?
I would take my cat.
Yeah.
I would take my Lord of the Rings book because I love that.
Yeah.
And I would probably bring my piano because I just love making music. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Amanda. Thank you for being here today. So, this is your promotion space. Where can people learn more about your work? And is there a project that you would like to share?
Well, I actually share all of my concerts and courses and upcoming projects on my social media. So I would say this is the best way to
Yeah.
know what's happening on Musitalk. So it's on Instagram. You just have to write Musitalk underline and you'll find me. And that's it. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I will leave that linked in the description. And for the listeners, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of María Alejandra OFF-TOPIC. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. And remember that OFF-TOPIC is a bigger platform. Find articles, essays, and the newsletter on the website mariaalejandrajimenez.com. And if you want to be part of the private community, Cafecito Off-Topic, you can check the link in the description. If you like this episode, share it with your favorite people, subscribe on your audio platform of preference, and leave a rating. That's the best way to support this project. And that's all for today. We will meet again soon for more off-topic conversations. Bye!